He does it over the phone with what was it? CNBC. And that's about as, I ain't gonna lie. Since they talk about business, they are a bit fair when they, come to criticizing Trump somewhat.
And now to the guests that we've been talking about all morning, President Donald Trump. Mr. President, welcome. Thanks for calling in. Wish you could be here in person, but we'll do this.
Good morning, Joe.
We've been talking about the BLS and the employment numbers all morning long. Sometimes I know you get a chance to tune in. I want to bring up a chart. I hope you can see it, or else I'll describe it to you. This is the response rate over the last 10, 12 years for the BLS, the household survey. It's dropped from...
So pretty much the Bureau of Labor Statistics, pretty much their job survey has seen, since 2013, they've had about 90 jobs, or 90 of the industries report. Now, ever since then, it's been going on a downward spiral where less and less jobs are reporting, less and less people in the sectors, factories and all that good stuff. It just goes down, 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 down. And here we are today with barely anybody turning in their surveys, or they're just getting in these surveys late, which kind of goes to the point of how the hell does she overestimate all those jobs?
90% or so on time. Down to 60 and sometimes even lower. It's arguably the most important number we get about the economy. Yesterday, we had Wharton Professor Jeremy Siegel on. Just bear with me, Mr. President, and listen to this. I know you're familiar with Wharton, but unsolicited, this is what Jeremy Siegel said yesterday about the numbers.
I'm not going to let the BLS off the hook. I mean, you talk about how to fix it. You don't make these questionnaires mandatory and give them a time limit to fill it out. I think the response rate's down to 60%. I mean, that's
or charge them a fine. It's like these guys are not interested in reporting their numbers. They're like, dog, just charge it. Like, if they don't report it at a deadline, charge them a fine.
Unacceptable for the most important statistic that we have. It's almost like we're sending them out, fill it out when you can. We know you like to go to the beach in the summer, so it might be a little bit late. This is just not acceptable today. We need it.
It's like, hello, multimillionaire Mr. Frederick. We're not trying to bother you, but you think you can, whatever you're done from getting back from Cancun, you think you fill out that job report. Like, whenever you get back, we ain't trying to rush you. It's not like we depend on the numbers or anything, but whenever you can. It's like, that's literally what we're hitting these guys with.
That response rate has to go up. And when you make the biggest mistake in 50 years, why wasn't there an explanation?
It's 258,000 less in 2 months. That was the biggest revision since 1968, Mr. President. So
biggest revision since 1968. That lady didn't really set a record. That is the biggest revision. And we talk about revision in the jobs. That's number one. I mean, shout out to that lady out here breaking records, but that's why she got fired, for breaking records and being wrong.
We're in the internet age. We still can't get any instant data. We're still using snail mail to get the responses back. It is the government, after all. Antiquated, no doubt, and certainly suboptimal, but rigged. Where do you get the notion that it's rigged, or do you have any evidence there?
It is antiquated, but it's also very political. And I had an election recently where I did very well, won every swing state, won the popular vote, won everything. All right, won all the counties. It's I think 87% of the counties were Republican up. That's never happened before. And yet I had to go through hell. And just days before the election, they put out numbers that it was like the country was on fire. It was doing so well. And then they did a revision about 2 weeks later. And the revision was down by almost 900,000 jobs. You remember that? And I said, what would have happened? What would have happened if I lost? Think of it. I would have said they gave phony numbers and then they revised them a week and a half later.
Those were benchmark numbers, though, Mr. President. That happens. They do that. They do that twice a year. And it reconciles the monthly figures with like the overall numbers. And it was a big number. And obviously,
but Joe, the numbers were rigged. The numbers were rigged. Biden wasn't doing well. He was doing poorly. They announced these phenomenal numbers 2 days before the election. And a little bit before that, always these great numbers. And you knew it wasn't doing well. You knew prices were through the roof and inflation was terrible. The whole thing was bad. But think of it. Then they did the biggest revision, I think, in history of almost 900,000 jobs. And it turned out to be more than that because later on they did another revision. And so they gave phony numbers in order to win the election. After I won the election, I said too big to rig. But after I won the election, then they announced a downward number, in other words, to bring them back to reality. And I said, wow, supposing I would have lost, I would have blamed that. And people would have said I was a conspiracy theorist. You know?
I mean, they already do.
Elaine Chao was on yesterday, and I know, she was, I think she was labor secretary for 8 years under Bush too, and she was your transportation secretary as well. And she said, the commissioner doesn't really even get involved with the actual minutia of putting all these things together. And
I was just like, all right, then what is she there for? So you telling me we just got a figurehead that we pay 6 figures on taxpayer money, and she has nothing to do with the process on how they, come up with these numbers when she is the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics? Like, no, I'm sorry. Nah, is it you're literally admitting to us that you just put a figurehead in there for the hell of it, and they ain't got nothing to do with the numbers. They're just there taking up a salary. Like, or we're just going to get down to the fact of hopefully what it is that, all right, yeah, she just effed up on her job. Because think about it, she's a commissioner. She has a say on how they conduct these numbers. And if there was an error on how they were conducting them, she should have been on top of that a while ago. But instead, no, she was sitting pretty and taking that 6-figure salary.
There's no way that it could have been, that she could have chosen to rig these numbers to make them look bad. And these are statistical changes based on this antiquated system, and it's just a big leap to go to rigged. And then it also, Mr. President, it makes anyone you pick is going to be, critics are going to say, hey, he's picking a guy that's going to give him or a gal that's giving him the numbers that he wants. So it undermines confidence in the system to some extent. You had, according to many people, all the rights in the world to try to replace a commissioner when hasn't gotten any better. But that is maybe a bridge too far, according to most people.
Well, I think when somebody says the commissioner is not involved, I don't want to get into any arguments with anybody. Why should I? She's a very nice woman.
Exactly.
But when they say that that nobody was involved, that it wasn't political, give me a break. Look, before the election, I had this massive outflow of beauty for Biden.
Like, look, this is what the Dems are not accepting. Like in May, she reported that there was 139,000 jobs. In June, she reported 140,000 jobs. She revised May's number from 139,000 to 19,000. June's number revision from 140,000 to 13,000, which pretty much means I guess we tripled or quadrupled our job numbers in July with 73 or 74,000. So yeah, when you get things that dramatically wrong, you're supposed to be running these statistics. There's a thing called a margin of error, and she's all the way outside the margin of error.
I mean, he didn't know he was alive. And for Biden, the economy was roaring. It was a beautiful thing. And I said, there's no way this is happening. It's going the opposite direction. And 2 weeks later, they said I was right. But even if you look at the original,
Al Castro, he said he just did. They are a figurehead anyways. I mean, exactly.
The ones from the other day, the numbers were very timid. And then they announced something that made them even more timid on top of it. On sort of a reporting day, I don't know why, it just seemed a little bit more important than most times when they announced these numbers.
We talked earlier that the unemployment rate is still low. It's 4.2%.
It's fine. I'm not saying earth-shattering. But I will say this. The numbers before the election were earth-shattering. I'm not saying these were earth-shattering. But then they announced a couple of 100,000 to make it look a little bit worse from, months before. I said, where did those numbers come from? So
for as much as you want,
it's a highly political situation. It's totally rigged. Smart people know it. People with common sense know it. And a lot of people,
to be honest, I don't even think it's political. I honestly think it was just a common mistake on a flawed statistic, on a flawed way of gathering statistics that they honestly should have nipped in the bud a while ago. I mean, maybe it should have been more, like internet wise. Maybe they should be getting an email instead of papers. Like, who knows how they gather up these surveys? But as you've seen from the statistics, bro, it went from what 90% of these guys turning it in 2013 to like 63, 55% today. So obviously, this is not the most efficient way to gather data, and it's been showing that for damn near 20 plus years. So it's beyond me why they did not change their strategy right now, and that's kind of why she got fired. I respect it. It's honestly, it's not political; it's incompetency.
I like
We'll move
to
on.
keep their head under the covers and
Let's
just
move
not
on to
believe
this.
it.
Which number do you believe at this point? Because if you noticed, suddenly the chances of what you've wanted for months and argued for months, the chances of a rate cut soared because of these numbers. Do you not believe the current numbers because they're playing right into what you want the Fed and Jay Powell to do? They're not horrible, as you said, but perhaps with the tariffs, some businesses delayed some spending. Some consumers may have been less certain about the future. So maybe we're seeing a slight slowdown in labor, but you're going to get exactly what you want based on these numbers. Which ones do you believe? Do you not believe the revised numbers either?
It's not what I want. I don't want that. I wanted it a year ago. I wanted it a long time ago. Jay Powell is highly political. And I think,
he's like, but look, man, I wanted the rate cut before I was in office. It's like, bro, he should have really cut it again before Biden left out. But hey, here we are asking for another rate cut.
Call him too late. Jerome, too late. Powell, he's too late. He's too late always. He always has been, except when it came to lowering interest rates before the election. He did. He worked that out.
Who would you replace him with? I know you watch the show occasionally, and we had an extended interview with one of the prospective replacements, Kevin Warsh. Were you watching that day, or
I was? He's very good. He's very good. He's very good. Sometimes they're all very good until you put them in there, and then they don't do so good. But a lot of them, I think he's a very good guy. I think I say Kevin and Kevin. Both Kevins are very good. And there are other people that are very good too. But
Kevin's
a lot of times,
and shout out Luna. It's like only Dems will pay for participation trophies. I'm like, for sure. It's like we're paying this lady 6 figures to give us the most accurate statistics she can. When you F it up that bad, you're wasting taxpayer dollars. And we're honestly, it's a waste of 6 figures. So please, guys, spare me the TDS. It's like this has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with Biden or the left or the right. This has everything to do with her incompetency in that position.
I don't know if that's good.
A lot of times they're very good. Like this character that we have in there now, Jerome Too Late Bell. He was very good. He said, "Sir."
But if this was under the Dems, they probably would have just kept her. I'm like, come on, guys, she's a woman. You can't just fire a woman. And she got a short haircut. We can't, guys. We can't do it. She's a woman with a short haircut, and I mean she's a bit overweight. Yeah, we can't fire her, guys. DEI.
Because he hardly knew him, but he wanted him so badly. I did somebody a favor. I put him in there. No, he's too late. He's too late. That name will stick to him.
Can you handicap it at all? Who you're, or you won't know? When will you know? And when will you announce it?
2 Kevins are doing well, and I have 2 other people that are doing well. Look, it's in the end there are numerous people that are qualified. Everyone on your phone right now, in terms of at your beautiful studio, would be very qualified, in my opinion. You guys are better than most of the people that do it for a living. But I watched a lot, actually. No, I think that it'll be 1 or 4 people.
Are the other
I'm going to make
names...
the decision soon. And don't forget, we have somebody that left early, which was a pleasant surprise. Mm-hmm. We have a woman that left early. She announced 2 days ago that she's leaving, and I'm going to be announcing that very shortly, too. That will be, most likely it'll be for the 4 months, for the short period of time. But a lot of people say that when you do that, why don't you just pick the person who's going to head up the Fed? That's a possibility, too.
President Trump, you said there are 4 names. There are 2 other names that have been mentioned in the press. One is Governor Waller. The other is the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Are those the 4 that you're considering?
Well, I love Scott, but he wants to stay where he is. I'll take him off because I asked him just last night, is this something you want? Nope, I want to stay where I am. He actually said, I want to work with you. It's such an honor. I said, that's very nice. I appreciate that. But no.
Yeah, Scott Bessent he want to stay in the action. I mean, Scott Bessent having the time of his life to running up these trade deals and pretty much putting these countries in their place with the statistics. So he's having the time of his life out there, obviously. So he don't want to be fed cheer. We got to be cooped up in an office looking at, the economy graphs all day. Doesn't sound like the most fun job, but it is very important. Honestly, I mean, like I said, just abolish the Fed and we can get on to better things.
Scott wants to do what he's doing. He's doing a great job, and he wants to do what he's doing. So I just take him off. He does not want it. He likes being Treasury Secretary. He's doing a really good job. We made the greatest trade deals in the history of our country. We had to because we were being ripped off by the world. It's not like we had a choice. If we would have gotten these trade deals, if you would have had a normal president that would have just continued to allow every country in the world to rip you off, we would not have a country anymore. Your show would be off the air. There'd be nothing to look at. It would be a disaster. We were in such bad shape when I took over. Eggs had tripled in price, more than that. Everything was up and prices are down, and it bugged me. I looked at CNN the other night, which is a failing deal. It's got no ratings, and I'm probably the only guy watching. And I watched these guys talking about, well, with Trump, prices are up. No, prices are down since I came in. Down. All prices just about, except for the price of stock. The price of stock is way up, okay? Yeah. But prices are down. And if you look at energy, I'll give you an example. Joe, look at energy.
Some of them, but...
Oh, guys, let's remember to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people on the conversation by double tapping that screen. Appreciate the support, man. Let's get us about 80 likes.
Yeah, energy is way down. Energy is down to $2.20 a barrel, a gallon now for a car. It's down to a level. You're down, I guess, around $65 a barrel, but it's going down. There's tremendous energy, and if you notice, OPEC and OPEC Plus, they're drilling more. They want to drill more because I think they want me happy. Because if energy goes down low enough, Putin's going to stop killing people. That'll be nice, even though they're his own people that are dying. Him and Ukraine, but Putin will stop killing people if you get energy down another $10 a barrel. He's going to have no choice because his economy stinks.
That's
Mr. President, it's Andrew here. It's great.
No, that's definitely true. They're literally running off like selling weapons and selling oil. That's all Putin got is weapons and oil. And if any of those get disrupted, their economy is like basically done for. I mean, it's really going to be, well, honestly, almost the end of the Russian economy. Unless they can get some trade deals, get the resources sold and bounce back, it does look like there might be a bit of a leadership change in Russia.
Great to speak with you. I just wanted to ask you about, you mentioned tariffs, and on Sunday you talked again about this idea of dividends for middle and lower income folks that might come off of the tariffs, meaning the revenue that's coming in from the tariffs. And I wanted you to maybe explain how that might work in practice and how you're thinking about that and the trade-offs between paying down the debt, which I thought was something you had been talking a lot about, versus sending checks out, because obviously that creates its own debt for us.
So we're taking in trillions of dollars, Andrew. If you look at Japan, we're taking in $550 billion. And that's like a signing bonus that a baseball player would get. He would get slightly less no matter how good he is, right? But they give a signing bonus of $1 million or $2 million or $20 million or whatever the hell they give today. It's so out of control. But a signing bonus. So I got a signing bonus from Japan of $550 billion. That's our money. It's our money to invest as we like.
Now, in actuality, it's guaranteed in loan that's backed by Japan. So pretty much a company can go to a bank, ask for funding, and if they default on that funding, then Japan backs it. So that means if it fails, then Japan will go ahead and back it as long as it's in one of the sectors that Japan has approved that $550 billion in loan guarantee and basically loan security. So that's pretty much what it is. It's not really them giving us, oh yeah, here's like $550 billion in a big ass suitcase. No, it's them pretty much telling us, look, whatever investment you put into semiconductors and cars and all that good stuff, we'll back you up on that. I mean, you could take out $2 billion for expansion. If it fails, we'll back you up. If you default on the loan, we'll pay that loan off for you. So there you go.
European Union, $650 billion. Think of it. And they're going to buy $750 billion worth of our energy. And they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And by the way, they're going to open up their countries, which they've never done. Japan has never. If you did business in Japan, they would arrest you. You're not allowed to do any business. And now Japan has totally opened up their country.
I mean, here's the thing, though. And this is why I don't like how other countries do us. We let other countries dump their cars into our economy. And no, it's not because their cars are better. We just believe in a fair market, fair trade, fair competition. They don't believe in fair competition. They keep our cars out of there, and they don't even let people test the American product out. Don't let the people test American engineering out. Nope, they just put the propaganda around it that it's trash and don't even let it into the country. But that stops with Trump. So shout out Trump on that note right there.
They're even taking our rice, which is something that nobody said was possible. But more importantly, they're taking our cars. They're taking the very beautiful Ford 150, which does very well, and I'm sure will do very well there. And other things that do very well here will also do well there. You'd be surprised at some of the great things we make. But Japan has opened up. All of these, Indonesia's opened up their country. South Korea has opened up their country. But not only opened up, and that's going to be huge business. When you open up South Korea, it's a closed country. And now all of a sudden we're allowed to sell cars into.
Exactly. The demand for our products are going to go up. There will be more sales. Therefore, there'll be more push for investments, hiring, more projects started, factories, all that good stuff. Yeah, we are looking at a boom. If everything plays out the way Trump says, which so far things are falling in line so far.
South Korea and trucks and SUVs. I mean, we're really opening it up. Vietnam is opening up their country. You know, these are all closed countries, but the EU was closed. They wouldn't take our agriculture. I said to, let me just say a prime minister, a very nice prime minister, a couple of years ago, I said, how many cars are you taking a year? Let me guess, is it one or two? She said, no, we don't take any of your cars. I said, that's right. That's not nice. I said, that's not right. That's not a nice thing, Angela. But they took none of them, and now
he just said it out loud. He was like, I was talking to the EU. Yeah, the EU was pretty much saying, no, there's countries that don't take American cars. I know, and that stops today because we take all your cars. Y'all love flying your cars over here, but guess what? Now we're about to have fair trade, guys. It's about to be even on both sides. You know, you accept our products, we accept y'all products. I mean, we always accepted y'all products. The only new thing is us getting into y'all markets. And I mean, what are y'all afraid of? What, you think we're just going to dominate your market and take all your clientele because we got better product? No, that could happen.
Take all our cars, all our trucks, everything is open 100%. In addition, the EU is going to pay us $650 billion. We're going to round it off, actually, because of certain things, to $600 billion. And think of it. They're going to put up $750 billion. We're a rich country again. Now, these are just deals that I'm announcing. These are the biggest ones because EU is, essentially Europe. We made great deals with all of the countries, and they're being fair about it. One other thing, I mean, for your listeners that perhaps are a little bit less wealthy than some of your listeners, I'm doing something that nobody's ever done before. As you know, for 30 years, Europe has had drug prices that are, in many cases, 1/10 the cost of drugs in here. Same manufacturing plants, same everything. 1/10. I've invoked favored nations. Now, there is no favored nations clause. I've just said there is, okay, because we're not going to pay 10 times more per pill than they pay in Europe. Then that's going to have a tremendous impact on the price of medicine.
Mr. President, what kind of teeth, though, are in those investments? What kind of teeth are in those investments, meaning that would force the EU to make those investments? If they don't make those investments, what happens on the other side?
They get hit with a tariff. We don't really accept their products, so we pretty much destroy their economy. I mean, or we get their companies to come back over here to keep their profit margins, because all of their companies, they get mainly most of their profits from America. And that's the sad reality of it. And that's why they're capitulating on these tariffs, because these tariffs can threaten to take these companies, which would be jobs, away from them. I mean, there you go. I mean, if they don't want to follow the rules and they want to go ahead and play weird. And here's the thing. I think on Piers Morgan, the lady even said, well, yeah, EU signed a deal for now, but that's until we go behind y'all back and search for a better partner. I mean, don't you think y'all did that before y'all came to the table? Don't you think they already tried? Do you really think the EU wanted to come to Trump and capitulated? Don't you think they'd have tried every option already? Exactly.
Well, then they pay tariffs of 35%. No, they brought down their tariffs. So they paid $600 billion. And because of that, I reduced their tariffs from 30% down to 15%. And a couple of countries came, how come EU is paying less than us? And I said, well, because they gave me $600 billion. And that's a gift. That's not like, a loan, by the way. That's not a loan that, 3 years comes up, we have to pay it back. There's nothing to pay back. They gave us $600 billion that we can invest in anything we want.
The deal that you
and nobody
now...
knows it, Becky. Nobody knows it because, you know, they
I would just say, like, this is where the dem logics fail when they say, oh, well, tariffs aren't, like, here's the thing. If we just sit there and pay tariffs directly, then why aren't they afraid of our tariffs? I mean, why are they so afraid of being tariffed? Why is the main concern about these guys being tariffed? Why are they outraged about tariffs if we pay it directly? Wouldn't they just say, okay, if you want to tax your own people, go ahead. I mean, if you want to go ahead and tax your own people for 15% tariffs on our product, go ahead and do so. Why aren't they having that attitude? No, they're not. They're freaking out about it because it threatens their industry. It threatens their domestic industry as well. So I have no idea how you guys just think that, oh, it's just a negative on the American side. Because if it was, then we wouldn't even have no complaints about tariff. The whole world wouldn't even be freaking out. They'd just be sitting there kicking their feet up going like, all right, cool.
No, that we have been trying to figure out the details on that, Mr. President. So
well, there are no details.
Clarity on that.
Details are $600 billion to invest in anything I want. Anything.
Okay.
I can do anything I want with it. And the purpose was they've been, you know, ripping us for so many years that it's time that they pay up, and they have to pay up. We couldn't afford to have the deficits. Look, I did something with Switzerland the other day. I spoke to their prime minister. The woman was nice, but she didn't want to listen. And they paid essentially no tariffs. And I said, we have a $41 billion deficit with you, madam. I didn't know her.
And here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand the way tariffs work. I mean, one, usually, like I said, this is why the countries freak out over tariffs, and so does the companies in those countries, because that means they got to cut their prices, especially if they're not the only dog in town, especially if that's the case. Then they're really at the mercy of the American importer. I know there's people saying that, oh, I have a small business and I do, like, bro, really? So you're telling me that you choose to, I would have to actually interview you and pretty much call you on your bullshit, because I've been hearing a lot of people claim that, oh, no, I have a business and tariffs is doing this and that. Well, let me tell you the story of Detroit Axle Auto Parts. It's a company in Detroit, right? Well, an auto parts company in Detroit. And they came on CNN today and said some BS like, oh, well, we have to cut jobs and all this stuff. And I had to look them up. And I was like, okay, cool. And they purchased all of their steel from China still. And here's the wild part about that. There is 5 steel companies that they can go to domestically in Detroit. So they don't even got to sit there and pay all that shipping costs and all the tariffs and all that wild stuff. They could have actually got their stuff right there. But there are some people who hate Trump that much to where they rather get it from the Chinese, get tariff, pay that extra cost before they ever sit here and try to benefit America, ever. So there are really people or CEOs or companies that just don't like America. And it was funny because that Axle company I'm telling you about, they also have operations out there in Turkey as well. So they're not completely American loyal.
I said, we have a $41 billion deficit, and you want to pay 1% tariffs. You wanted 1%. I said, you're not going to pay 1%. We lose, because I view deficit as loss. You know, you have some people, by the way, I think
pharmaceuticals are a big issue with Switzerland. I think.
Well, I'll go into pharmaceuticals. Yeah. They make a fortune with pharmaceuticals, and they make our pharmaceuticals in China and Ireland and everything else. And within the next week or so, we're going to be announcing tariffs on specifically. This is this is a separate class than the 15% tariffs on sort of everything. These are excluded classes, I call them. I like to call them excluded, like steel, aluminum, etc.
Right. The
well,
232.
We're going to be announcing on semiconductors and chips, which is a separate category, because we want them made in the United States. And by the way, they're being made in the United States. You know, we have the biggest in the world, as you know, from Taiwan is coming over and spending $300.
And here's the thing, though. This also caused disruption in the world because pharmaceutical companies, they don't want us to pay most favored nation. So here's the grimy thing they might do. They might actually raise the prices across the board on everybody and reach an equilibrium. And here's the disappointing part about reaching equilibrium, which is fair and, doesn't just overly rely on the U.S. So that means our prices go down, but since we're paying the most, I mean, no shit, our prices are going to go down at equilibrium. But that means a lot of these countries, prices are going to be going up to meet that equilibrium. And that's if these guys are being dicks. Now, they could be nice and everybody pay that most favored nation price, or they could be dicks and put everybody at a nice medium, and that means ours lower while the whole world's prescription prices rises.
$100 billion in Arizona, building the biggest plant in the world for chips and semiconductors. But on pharmaceuticals, we'll be putting a initially small tariff on pharmaceuticals, but in 1 year,
President
1.5 years maximum, it's going to go to 150%, and then it's going to go to 250%, because we want pharmaceuticals made in our country. And that's not the CHIPS Act like Biden did, because he didn't know what he was doing, where they gave billions of dollars to companies that had more money than they knew what to do with.
President Trump, can I ask you about something that you're doing that's opposite of the Biden administration, too? And that's the latest deal that you've announced. Yeah, the latest deal, though, that you're announcing with India. You're upset with the trade deal there, especially because they're buying Russian oil. The Biden administration sanctioned Russian oil, but then they kind of winked and nodded and appreciated that India and China were buying some of that oil because they were worried it would raise oil prices and thereby prices at the pump. To you, is it more important to shut down the Russians on this?
I mean, why can't you just buy it from us? I mean, why you got to buy it from the Russians? I mean, why don't y'all want to invest in us? Why do y'all play in our face but then support our enemy? It's like, what the hell's going on, Modi? Like, you just all up here in the White House talk about, cooperation with America. We're going to have a good trade deal, all that good stuff. Then you go and just go ahead and help Putin support his war that we're trying to stop. Like, oh, you guys are such allies. Like, that's the crazy thing. It's like, bro, it's the language of Canada and India that kind of like irks me off sometimes. It's just like, oh, we're your friends. How could you do this to us? Bro, what about these unfair trade deals and these import barriers and limitations? What do you mean? What do you mean we're friends? Y'all don't act like it. Y'all don't play like it.
Than to worry about oil prices?
I'm not worried about prices because we're drilling at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And what Biden did is he stopped my drilling. And then prices, if you remember that first couple of months, prices went through the roof. And he immediately said, let's go back to what Trump was doing. Let's go back to it. But by that time, they had blown it. And the energy prices were so high. And that's what caused that. And his crazy spending is what caused, by the way, the largest inflation in the history of our country was during the Biden administration. Not 48 years. They like to say 48 years. It was the largest in the history of our country, the inflation that we had during Biden, because the man obviously didn't know what he was doing. But with India, what people don't like to say about India, they're the highest tariff nation. They have the highest tariff of anybody.
I know nobody's saying that India is taxing their people to death. No, I mean, if you actually look up the real use of tariffs, which India is using excellently, like, bro, they're using it to protect their domestic economy. They don't want no foreign products coming in. They don't want nobody disturbing their economy, but they're okay with disturbing yours. They don't want nobody in their workforce, but they're okay with planting people in ours. So this is where we look at India with that face again, like, oh, come on now. Are we really allies when we let you do oh so much, you let us do oh so little?
We do very, very little business with India because their tariffs are so high. So India has not been a good trading partner because they do a lot of business with us, but we don't do business with them. So we settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil. They're fueling the war machine. And if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy.
There are a lot of deals signed. And I don't know, I thought India was imminent. I'm not sure what the sticking point is there, Mr. President. But let's just, since we don't have all day, we got to talk China.
Well, the sticking point with India is that tariffs are too high. Now, I will say this. But India went from the highest tariffs ever. They will give us 0 tariffs. And they're going to let us go in. But that's not good enough because of what they're doing with oil. Not good.
It looked like you were going to have a meeting and people were talking about it with President Xi. And then you went out of your way to kind of say other people are saying, I think you even called it fake news or something. It looked like you were indicating that you were unhappy or that talks had broken down. And we've had a couple of frameworks or some positive moves. And China, you've had a lot of success with other countries. China is a big deal and not quite the elephant in the room, but certainly an important trading partner. Where does that stand? Will there be a meeting between you and President Xi? Anything planned at this point? What's the sticking point now, and how optimistic are you that we get a comprehensive
Well, I can have
deal?
a meeting. We have a very good relationship, but I didn't call for the meeting. He called for the meeting. So the fake news announced Donald Trump wants a meeting with China. No, I don't.
Yeah, and the current status with China, I mean, let's be real. Trump don't really honestly want much of a meeting with China because he's already getting what he wants. He got 30% across the board on Chinese products. And I'm talking about that's the fentanyl tax and the base 10% tariff on China already. So, and guess what? China has 0% tariffs on our products, our imports coming in, because China use our imports to fuel their manufacturing.